From his retirement at UFC 249 to making a shocking return to the octagon at UFC 288 against Aljamain Sterling, here are Henry Cejudo's best fight moments. Now, UFC 249 was filled with enough upsets and twists to make your head spin, but perhaps the most jaw-dropping moment of the night was when Cejudo, aka Triple C, stunned everyone by announcing his retirement from the sport right after successfully defending his UFC Bantamweight Championship.
I'm retiring tonight, Joe. I'm 33 years old. I'm happy with my career.
Cejudo had been on fire for the past couple of years, snatching titles in two separate weight divisions like they were candy from a baby. And even though he was supposed to give up one of his belts, Cejudo still reigned as a UFC flyweight champion in addition to being the bantamweight king. But here's the kicker. Many people thought that Cejudo was just bluffing about retiring, believing that it was just an attempt at getting a better contract. But UFC President Dana White knew better. In fact, White revealed that Cejudo had brought up the idea of retirement to him multiple times in the past, so he knew that the decision was a permanent one. It turns out that the main reason for his departure was a lack of motivation. He was pretty much getting tired of not having a challenge and winning all the time. Now that's some real star power. But hey, you know how the saying goes, time heals all wounds. Fast forward to UFC 288, and guess who makes a comeback? Triple C himself. He stepped into the octagon ready to reclaim the belt that he'd abandoned. And let me tell you, it was one for the ages. More on that later though. For now, let's talk about his fight with Demetrious Johnson. You may be surprised to know that Cejudo didn't have the most glamorous of beginnings in the UFC. When he first signed with the UFC back in 2014, he was set to make his debut in a flyweight fight against Scott Jorgensen, but things didn't go according to plan when he couldn't make weight. Cejudo ended up being pulled out of the fight on medical grounds. Dana was not pleased, to say the least. He gave Cejudo an ultimatum: either move up to the 135-pound bantamweight division or leave the UFC. Well, Triple C wasn't about to back down from a challenge. He accepted the challenge and moved up to the higher weight class, even managing to win his debut fight. But he didn't stop there. With the help of a dedicated nutrition coach, Henry moved back down to the flyweight division and went on a 3-fight winning streak.
From Cejudo! He hurt Dom.
Now, the flyweight division wasn't exactly overflowing with contenders, but a 3-fight winning streak is nothing to scoff at, and it was enough to earn Cejudo a shot at the flyweight title against the reigning champion, Demetrious Johnson, at UFC 197 in April 2016. Unfortunately for Cejudo, the fight was a total letdown. Johnson stopped him 3 minutes into the first round, and it looked like his shot at glory had come and gone. But as they say, every defeat is a lesson learned, and Henry Cejudo took that lesson to heart. He worked harder, trained smarter, and waited for his chance to come again. And it did. Cejudo and Johnson met again at UFC 227, but this time, Triple C was ready. After the disappointing loss in their first encounter, Cejudo bounced back with a 3-fight winning streak, which was enough to earn him another title shot against Johnson. Despite a previous loss to Joseph Benavidez, Cejudo took advantage of the shallow depth of the flyweight division and secured himself another shot at the title. In a closely contested fight, Cejudo managed to edge Johnson by split decision, causing a major upset and securing the flyweight championship for himself. A third match with Johnson seemed inevitable, but it never came to fruition because Johnson was traded to ONE FC for Ben Askren. As for Cejudo, he was just getting started. The flyweight champion went on an incredible winning streak, defending his title against some of the toughest opponents in the division, one such fighter being TJ Dillashaw. When Cejudo put his flyweight championship on the line against Dillashaw, most people thought it was going to be a coronation for the bantamweight champ. Dillashaw was going down in weight to try and become a 2-division champ, and the odds were stacked in his favor. But when the bell rang, Cejudo came out swinging, throwing hit after hit with furious intent. And just 32 seconds later, it was all over. Cejudo had dropped Dillashaw in his tracks in the very first round, announcing himself as a true force to be reckoned with in the sport. But this time, there was no controversy because, unlike his fight with Johnson, Cejudo had undoubtedly defeated one of the best fighters in the promotion, and he still wanted more. After the fight, Cejudo didn't bask in the glory for long. He immediately called out Dillashaw for a rematch, this time for the bantamweight title. Unfortunately, Dillashaw's post-fight drug test came back positive, derailing the rematch plans and leading to a 2-year-plus ban for the former champ, alongside surrendering his bantamweight belt. So this meant Cejudo defeated a guy using PEDs to give himself an edge in just 30 seconds of the first round. Looks like the only thing Triple C was high on was the thrill of the kill. Cejudo's quest for greatness wouldn't be denied, though. A few months later, he'd get his shot at bantamweight glory against Marlon Moraes. Henry made history at UFC 238 by headlining his first-ever pay-per-view card, as well as taking on Moraes for the vacant bantamweight belt. Things didn't start well for Cejudo. Moraes established distance between them with his powerful leg and head kicks, making it difficult for Cejudo to close the gap without taking a barrage of strikes from his opponent. However, Triple C's resilience and adaptability came into play in the second round. While his opponent continued to try and chip away at his legs, Cejudo used the tie clinch to successfully close the gap and turn the fight into an all-out brawl. The trend continued in the third round as well. Cejudo was able to take Moraes to the ground and unleash a brutal beatdown, prompting the ref to stop the fight with a TKO victory for the champ. With this win, Cejudo achieved something no other fighter had done before. He became the flyweight champion, bantamweight champion, and an Olympic medalist all at the same time. Realizing the magnitude of his accomplishments, Cejudo coined a new nickname for himself, Triple C. That's right, this was the origin of the name that struck fear in the hearts of UFC fighters in the late 2010s. Achieving such a remarkable feat boosted Cejudo's popularity in the MMA world, establishing him as one of the sport's pound-for-pound best fighters. At just 32 years old, he was poised to be one of the UFC's biggest stars for a long time to come. Fans and pundits alike were excited to see what Triple C would do next, which brings us a full circle back to the beginning of this video. Cejudo versus Dominick Cruz at UFC 249. By this time, Triple C had earned himself a reputation as one of the most dominant fighters in the UFC. Despite this, Dominick Cruz, the former bantamweight champion, was still regarded as the best fighter in the division's history until their co-main event clash at UFC 249. Cejudo ended Cruz's impressive record in the second round of their fight, landing a brutal knee and left-hand combo that slumped the fighter, forcing the ref to stop the fight. This had been the first time Cruz had been knocked out in his MMA career, so that's saying something. While some people questioned the timing of the stoppage, there was no denying that Cejudo's win was an impressive feat. After the fight, Cejudo stunned fans and the UFC world by announcing his retirement from the sport. He said he was content with his career and that he wanted to start a family with his girlfriend. He thanked Uncle Dana and declared himself as Triple C for what everyone thought would be the last time. Well, not anymore. When Sterling, the reigning bantamweight champion, faced off against the returning champ at UFC 288, fans hoped for an epic showdown to finally settle the debate over the best 135-pound fighter in the world.